Well, hello, Miss Terra. How are you?
Hey, Miss Marilyn, how's it going? I'm good.
I gotta tell you, every time that countdown comes on, I get excited. I'm like, wow, this is happening. So, is it me, or do you feel like this is the countdown to getting rid of 2020?
This countdown is real, real special because I can't wait for 2020 to see the door.
Oh my gosh, how many emails? So, this is the first year I've gotten a lot of emails from people wishing you season's greetings, in the first sentences in this unprecedented year. It's like, please just let me get out of here. Please let me get out of 2020. But before we go, we have things to talk about, right, Tara?
Absolutely. I mean, look, I feel like we need to purge 2020. I'm gonna burn some sage. I need a ritual, but I need to get say goodbye to 2020 so that I can look to 2021 and have some hope.
Right. But I'll be honest and say that 2020 has not been bad for everybody. And there are some great lessons that we've learned. And so, for the audience, I'd like to just first say thank you for joining us. And I will officially introduce us. I'm Marilyn Johnson. I'm principal consultant of MH Johnson. And Tara, you do you.
I'm Tara Winston. I am ringleader of interactions and founder of Interact Consulting. And the two of us, we make the solo
Solo
CEO.
CEOs. Yes. We have been doing this now as a team for about 2.5 years. We decided somebody needed to represent the business owners that are not those that are trying to make mega, mega, mega dollars and build huge teams. And actually, it's a lot more of us than you think. And thanks to 2020, there's a lot more coming online, right there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know about you, Marilyn, but I talk to a lot of people, and there are people who, um, now that work doesn't seem quite as stable. Or we're going to
Yeah.
talk a little bit about the lessons that you learned
Mhm.
that 2020 have taught us. There are a lot of people that are just changed, like their values have changed, the things that they want, and so I think being a solopreneur is I've already known, and you've always known that it was attractive. I think it's getting more attractive to people.
It is. And so, because of that, not only do we want to share some things that we've learned this year, but also some of the things that we do at the end of all the years. But also, we want to invite you all to go to our website and look at some of the other talks that we've had, because we've had some awesome people. We call them gurus because they are brilliant people, brilliant in many different facets. So, please check out our website and let's get with it, Tara. So,
All right, so I got first question for you is
yes.
what has 2020 taught you?
Oh, wow. And only because we only have 60 minutes and not even a full 60 minutes, I'm just going to say two things. 2020 has taught me patience and it's taught me resilience. And so Tara has talked to me a lot. She knows I bucket stuff. So let's start with patience. How has 2020 taught me patience? One, people, I have been a solopreneur for 20 years, which is amazing. Every time I say it, I just am so surprised that I stuck it out so long. I've worked from home for 20 years by myself. This year, guess who was at home with me? My husband, Gary. You might hear me say the name Gary. That's who he is. He's never worked from home. And so just being in a space with someone else, and we have a house and he has his own space and I have my own space. But I used to tell him he didn't know office manners. His inside voice was out of touch, like everything was wrong. So just being patient and getting that down. But I've noticed even with my customers, some of them are not familiar with work at home styles. So people are trying to figure it out. And a lot of times you want to get down to the business, you want to get down to the business, but we got to give people breathing room. So that's the patience part. Another one, I don't know if you all paid attention to my headshot. The hair is different because I never had to comb my hair every day until 2020 when everybody wanted to do video calls. I was like, okay, really? So I had to get rid of all chemicals and all hair. Ta da! Now that's another story. But anyway, so just getting the hair combed and then staying in contact with my customers, making sure that people don't forget me, because sometimes I would be able to go to conferences, meet people, see people, Now, not so much. So just learning how to effectively work from home. The resilience part comes in really changing how we do business. I mean, Tara and I were supposed to have a phenomenal in-person conference this year. Had a great space and everything. Didn't
Paid
quite
for it.
happen. Right, we had
We
paid
paid for
for it.
everything.
Right, we had the whole 9 yards. We was even talking it's like wedding planning. We was talking about menus and what kind of chicken we was gonna like everything, and it didn't happen. But that's when we learned about pivot. How many times have you heard pivot this week, let alone this year? Pivot, pivot, pivot. Hey,
Hey,
Joanne.
Joanne,
What?
one of our speakers from one of our past summits. Good to see you,
Yes,
Joanne.
she is amazing.
She's,
Thank you for
yeah.
joining us.
If you need some marketing tips, go to Joanne. That woman is
Exactly.
phenomenal.
Exactly. And what you'll see from Tara and I is that we like to share the wealth. So when we have people that support us, we support them back. As solopreneurs, we have to do that. As a year that has not been the same as any other, we've learned to be resilient and do certain things. So yeah, pivot, we had to do that. Eureka, we learned how to have online talks, and we're happy to bring that to you. But something that was really the biggest impact to us was we had a significant loss. I'm not going to talk about it as much as I want to hand that over to Tara, but this is speaking directly about resilience in not only human character, but also as a business owner, because as a solopreneur, everything that happens to you impacts you personally and impacts your business. So Tara, I want to hand that over to you so I can ask you, what has 2020 taught you?
Ooh, there's some lessons you learn the roughest of ways, right?
Mhm.
Um, I want to say hi to Shell, Rick, and Dion for getting on. Good to see you guys. Um, so some people those of us in our community may know that I lost my dad this year. Myself and Krista, who is also on our solo CEO team, we lost our dad this year. And when Marilyn talks about resilience, like resilience,
Mhm.
pivot, all the above comes into place, right?
Right.
In fact, we lost him while we were on a planning call for solo CEO. So our entire team, Marilyn, Sherry, and Latoya, all were there to witness
Yeah.
the worst day of our lives. And
On
I
Zoom, people.
on
This
Zoom, we
was
were in this Zoom
all on Zoom.
when it all happened, and so like there are two things that I learned, right? One is about the power of community, and we talk about community like every online marketing team will say, like, you build a community, you go to the people, like you send them lots of Instagrams. But what community really means is you have a group of people that have your back, right? So from that moment, so literally from the moment that our crisis hit, that Marilyn, Sherry, Latoya, the solo CEO team were right behind, like resolving things. Latoya was already going and talking to my other clients and canceling my meetings. Marilyn and Sherry were trying to hold us. They were praying for us. They were like everybody in our community, without us asking, were activated and completely running. And then across my clients, like we oftentimes don't think of our community as our clients. Like one by one, the clients were standing up and offering, slowing things down, delaying deadlines, right? People rose into the spaces where I was weak. And I'm not sure I would have made it through had
But
we not.
she's great, people, just so you know. The reason they do that is because she's good. Simple.
Well, and so part of community is you have to invest in community before you need it, right? And I think that's kind of what comes into it. So I think the other piece and then, back to, like Rick, you said the key word is pivoting, right? And so a lot, like I had to do personal pivoting, and the team had to pivot. Like I caused pivoting in the team, because they had to rise up to kind of support me. But the other thing that comes through, for me, and I've talked to a bunch of people, is that 2020 has really taught everyone to lean into what matters most. It's so easy to get really busy. And so like if we just take it strictly to your business level, the word is simplify, right? Businesses have
Mhm.
been investing, like divesting of things that were taking extra energy because they know I have no extra energy to give. As a solopreneur, really looking at kind of what are the things that fuel you emotionally and that drive you financially, and then laying into those things. I know I had time or energy for extraneous things, and I think And that's emotionally, like from your friends and your family, and that's also from the work. And so I think that taught me what matters, really focus on what matters most. And that's something that I hope to keep as I bring into 2021. Right. And so as we think about, like, those are the lessons that the world taught us, but we had some really great gurus on
Yeah.
our solo CEO guru talks. And again, like, if you missed any, you need to go back to that website and go ahead and if you got time over the holidays, watch some of these talks. Marilyn, of all the talks, what's one thing that still resonates with you?
Okay, so first and foremost, one of our gurus just he logged in, Stuart Taylor. He
As
likes
the
to simplify. Hey, Stuart. And if anyone has ever had the opportunity to listen to Stuart, you'll understand why he's not only one of the favorites, but he's just a good person that always gives honest, good advice. But one of the things I have to say is Cynthia Johnson was one of our first gurus, and she is a representative of the Women's Business Development Council in Chicago. I have been a certified woman-owned business for about 17 of the 20 years I've been in business. And that is because they have given me access to my customer. I have to know who my customer is. And so when Cynthia started talking about really evaluating your business, figuring out who your customer is, number one, and then where they are, once you figure that out, you find those different channels that allow you to get closer to your customers. Because as small business owners and solopreneurs, we don't have the clout to have a sales team always knocking on doors. So I'm going to say that the number one thing for me is my certification. It was a highlight. It helped me stay in business. Actually, I did pretty good with building the business with my customers. So for everyone who thinks about it, look into it if it's applicable to you. How about you, Tara?
All right, so you gave away a little bit of mine, because
Oops, sorry.
because Stuart is always dropping plenty of nuggets. And
Mhm.
Stuart, I always listen to you. I do. But I would tell you something that you said at the last Guru Talk that just really just keeps banging in my head. So for those of you who missed it, Stuart talks about how he's on a bunch of boards for-profit companies, and he was seeing the same pattern as they were trying to tackle this pandemic. And what he was seeing is, like, first, you want to solidify that your money's good, right? Is your foundation, will you survive? What do you need to do to ensure your stability, right? But after that, what are the moonshots? What are the big ideas? And the rationale that they had was, like, it is going to be a terrible year. Like, like no one is going to get blamed if you fail. Like, so for the first time in a long time, why not do something that might fail? And I thought that was so inspiring, like, even for a small business and even so for solopreneurs, because we kept
Mhm.
hearing doom and gloom. And now you and
Yeah.
I, Marilyn, you and I both know there are a lot of businesses that really have struggled, are struggling, and may not survive. And so I don't want to underpin that, right? That's why the first part of his statement was so important. You want to solidify
Mhm.
your foundation. But after that, there were a lot of people that just, like, got really, really tight and really, really risk averse and are not taking advantage of the opportunities that are still there. Like, to rather than think about all the negatives, people were missing the potential. And so, like,
Right.
that really stuck with me, to always, even in the darkness, look for the light.
That's a really good point, Tara. Something that happened with me, and I told you about, I started looking at what some of the other bigger companies were doing. And to your point about Stuart said, look, shoot for the moon, because if you don't, you'll never know what's out there. And I just went into a customer and said, this is my target. And it was insane. It was absolutely insane for me to go in and say, these are the things I want. And they listened, because what I didn't think about was, and as solopreneurs, we do it too often, we discount how good we are, because we're so used to saying, well, we're not as big as some of the larger guys. We don't have this team. But they listened because they knew, just like I said earlier, Tara's good. And so they realized, you know what? It's better to work with somebody that we know is good and give them the opportunity than give the opportunity to somebody we're kind of on the fence with. And so as solopreneurs, you have to know where your lane is. But once you're in that lane, you drive hard. You drive hard and you just keep going because there's opportunity out there. And even if, say, the business that you have is not successful, it's just that business. I mean, I don't want to sound casual about it, but because you already know that you have this other dream, you can take those skills, apply it to something else. A true solopreneur does not give up. Um, I talked to Josh, who was also one of our gurus, and I asked him what was one good piece of advice. And Josh is at Small Business Development Council. Josh said, "You know what? I instead of saying pivot, I say stick and move." So for small businesses, and it's like land shark, you just don't stop. You stick and move, and you're like, "Oh, okay. Well, that opportunity didn't pan out. Don't stay there too long. Go in another direction. Okay, well, it didn't work over there. Oh, there's something there." So we definitely practice what we preach. When we learn, we share. Thanks,
Mhm.
Stuart, and all of our other gurus.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So Marilyn, what are you happy to leave behind in
Ooh.
2020?
All right. Well,
Wait,
I'm
wait,
happy.
before you answer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't want this just to be a conversation between you and I. So
Right.
y'all watching, type into the comments, what are you leaving behind? Like, use this, cleanse your aura, cleanse your spirit, and get it
Yeah.
out there, right? So put it in the comment section. So now, Marilyn, go ahead.
Right. So what I'm leaving behind is just the heaviness in the environment. 2020 was so negative and it was so dark from the just personal aspects of we're dealing with pandemic. How many times have we said that? Where it's so much death, so much sickness, and then people are scared of each other, which is sad because humans are just normally social animals. And so now it's like, okay, well, we're going to take that aspect out of your life. So that's unfortunate. And then I don't know, you all, I live in Arizona. I don't know where everyone else lives, but just the negative political atmosphere. I don't care what side of the aisle you sit on. It was just heavy. And I like to watch me some network TV. Yeah, no, I'm not a binge person. Well, thanks to this, I have become. But I got tired of listening to all the doom and gloom and darkness. Doom and gloom and darkness. People are dying. People, the end of the world. And so I feel like there is a light. It might be way down at the end of the tunnel, but there's a glimmer of light. And I think part of it is because there's hope. People have hope with the vaccine that the number of people dying will be reduced. People have hope that they can get back to some semblance of normalcy where you can walk down the street and not be scared of somebody that's walking the other direction. And so I look at it and go, man, leaving that darkness behind. I want hope. How about you, Tara? And who else out there? We want to hear what you're talking about.
Put it in the comments. Put it
Put
in
it
the
in the
comments.
comments. I see Latoya has something.
Right. So yeah, so Latoya's leaving behind the type of work that doesn't bring me joy. I love it. She's KonMarian, a business that's just not my closets. I love that. Ooh, Stewart, put Stewart's up there, Krista. Stewart's leaving behind anxiety in all its forms, right? And that's a really good link between Marilyn's and mine, right? Because what I am leaving behind is overwhelm. And so if you've watched some of our guru talks, I did one with my coach, David Darst.
Mhm.
And David is a masterful coach. I've worked with him for years, and then we did our guru talk. So in our last coaching session, I was dealing with feeling overwhelmed with all the stuff I had to do. And a good coach will actually read you for filth. So rather than coddle me,
But he does it really nicely.
he's such a nice guy. He does with his big booming bass voice. But what he said to me, he said, Tara, overwhelm is an emotional state, right?
Yeah.
And he said the reason why is that you don't know anyone whose to-do list is empty. Not a single one. And your to-do list is never empty. There's always stuff, personal stuff, work stuff, house stuff, but you're not always overwhelmed. And so if you always have to-dos and you're not always overwhelmed, then the to-dos cannot be the sole thing causing the overwhelm. And I was like, oh, that's just deep. That's real deep. And what I realized is that my response when I'm feeling overwhelmed is to do a logical thing to try to solve it, right? So I take my to-do list and I comb through them and
Mm-hmm.
try to eliminate stuff. And so if overwhelm is an emotional state, it needs an emotional solution. A logical thing will not stop the emotions. And I was like that was such a big aha for me. And so the remedy, because I was like, what you want me to do with this now? The remedy has to be emotional. And he said, what that means is there's a pattern, there's something that is triggering the emotion. So is it the types of things on your to-do list? Is it how the guilt you feel about something? Like, so if you figure out what the emotion is behind it, then you're more likely to be able to take that overwhelm, just shrink it, right? Shrink that anxiety and be able to then, from a level clear head, be able to do the work that you need to do and solve the real problem. And I thought that was really powerful. And so I'm leaving behind overwhelm and, like Stewart, try to get all the anxiety behind me, which is really, really powerful. Right.
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 When
Woof.
Tara talks, I was like, Tara, your stuff just sounds so deep and brilliant. Mine is like, I'm just getting rid. I want to look at TV again.
I'm
I
like,
want to
that
turn on
stuff makes more sense.
ABC. Right. I just wanted to. Okay, listen what Joanne has to say.
Man, again,
I'm running it.
all right, so Jen, if 2020 has taught us anything, it is that our plans can be broken and your pivot message is spot on. Oh, she says, and I sprinkle in with grace and flexibility. Oh, yes, grace and flexibility
Mm-hmm.
is key. It's like flexible business owners change the new way of doing business. Like
Yes.
that's actually really is so important because I have tried to stop myself and even my clients from talking about when things get back to normal, because there
Mm-hmm.
is no back to, like there isn't anything, and it's not even the new normal, because the one thing that I feel like we got to get out of is like, whew, I'll get somewhere and then I can just sit and it's going to
Yeah.
be right. Like it's the next normal, because 5 minutes after that something's going to shift, right? So getting used to being adaptive has to be the way forward for solopreneurs, and quite frankly for anybody, but more so for us when it comes to
Right.
our business, right? All right, so let's get down to like the specifics, since I've been all esoteric in your emotions, right?
No
Right.
problem.
So how do you close out 2020?
Hmm. Now this is so it's funny. Both Tara and I are Myers-Briggs practitioners. We both facilitate it, and we have distinct differences. Now, listen to my answer, and then see if you can tell the difference between me and her. When we talked about these questions, I was like, I do a financial closeout, aka I get my ass paid. I sit down with a spreadsheet and I try and figure out who owes me, who I need to send invoices to, making sure all the numbers are trued up. Oh yes. That is what I do at the end of the year. I don't go into 20 any other year without that financial true up. Tara, what'd you do? Yeah, let's see. You all will see the difference.
That feels like judgment, Marilyn. That feels like judgment.
Oh, me
Uh,
judge you?
all right, okay. So what I do as I close out the year is I dream into the future of my business,
Ain't
right?
nobody got no
So
dreams.
some people might call it strategic planning. It's not quite as specific as the strategic planning you may know some companies do. But I look at my business and how it intersects with my life, and what are the new things I want to try? What don't I love anymore? So I kind of take more inventory. It's a little more touchy feely.
No. I can feel all the dollars in my pocket. I can figure it out, and that makes me happy. But no, really, in all honesty, I do a little bit of that, but I do also go into it with that whole financial strategic vision. Something Rick put up there is only focusing on relationships and business opportunities that bring me joy. I
Mhm.
feel you, Rick. My pivot is deeper, meaningful business and personal relationships.
That's right.
That's the beauty of being a solopreneur, where you can command exactly what those relationships that you want to go after should be.
Mhm.
And Tara, I mean, when you're looking at your strategic plan, how are you looking at your customers? How are you determining what does it look like for the next year?
Well, and so I think that flavor of like what brings me joy, right?
Mhm.
Fits into all that. And like that's where that solopreneur kind of, even when you're looking at like your numbers are hard and fast, right? You got to get your money right. But when you're looking at how you build your business and how you grow with it, like I do
Mhm.
look at like what are the types of customers that I tend to enjoy working with, right? What are the service lines that I enjoy? I also look at kind of where's that money, like where's the happiest money, right? In terms of
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
how how I spend my time, and kind of what the return on investment for that time is. And like somewhere, because there are things that I do that I know that my time would actually get me more money than others, but I just love them and they're important. And I have to manage them against everything else, because otherwise, the people that I work with just be really mad at me. I'm looking at my Latoya, who's on my team, who's like, you spend too much time giving your money, your stuff for free, TW. Um, but actually, that takes us to the next question, right? Um, how do you restart in the new year, right? So, in theory, as if any of us are actually going to get to do anything fun over the holidays, in theory, you slow down at the end of the year, you do your closeout, and then you restart, right? What's your process for doing that? Oh, wait a minute, I see Connie. Connie over here.
Connie is with me. Connie's like, get that money.
Get that. Wait a minute. You notice Connie says money first.
Mhm.
First is
Yeah.
money
She's like,
and then
we'll
love.
lead with
I
that.
hear, I hear you, Connie. That's okay.
Exactly.
All right. So this is another question that I want y'all chime in, because we all,
Please.
as solopreneurs, we all have different processes that we do. But so Marilyn, I'm curious, how do you restart your year?
I usually, a friend of mine and I, we would have what we would call like mock board meetings where we would actually sit down and talk about the services that I provide and some of the services that I could provide. And let me not make it seem very straight laced in that we usually do this while we're drinking and eating a lot of good food. And we talk about those things that help us get to the good money, the good customers. I mean, we I think have all had some experiences where you've worked with people and you goes, I don't ever want to work with them ever again. And so we talk about that, and the solution to that is, what are you doing so that you won't have to do that? Building that profile. And so we would just go over the services and customers and look at what makes most sense so that we can move forward, and then from there I have a play sheet where I go after the customers that actually make sense for some of the things I want to do. How about you, Tara?
Well, so before we get to me, like something, Marilyn, I've always really liked about you, because Marilyn's been in business for 20 years. I've been in business for 12. And so when I started my business, once like there's probably, I guess, Marilyn, it's probably 3 years before I met you, right?
Mm.
But I was still like, let's be real. The first couple of years, I was like, I'm making money. I was probably just a freelance person. I'm probably somebody that washed your windshield at some point, trying to figure this whole business thing out. But by the time I met Marilyn, I was like, okay, maybe I'm a business person. And I always really liked your business development process, because I kept reading about like customer funnels and all this big really fancy stuff. And I remember you showed me, like, you had like a real basic like real
The
basic piece of
spreadsheet.
paper. You had a spreadsheet
Mhm.
where you're like, okay, I see this person at this conference, I see this person at this conference. You had it all laid out really well, and I was so impressed with it. And so I want to, like, I really want to encourage everyone that you figure out what works for you, and it just has to be enough for what you need. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. Don't get lost in a lot of things. And I think that's one of the first lessons I think that I learned from you, Marilyn, just in kind of watching how you operated.
Now, what's funny about that, Tara, is that I would have the spreadsheet, and then like you have David, which is a professional coach. He does this for a living. And then I have Rick, who is on right now, who is not a professional coach, but he was my coach. And I would do some things, and then I would call him and go, was that okay? And he would be like, yeah, nah, here's what you, because when I started the business, I didn't know anything about sales. I wasn't a salesperson. And I came from corporate. And so I felt like, all right, there's sales teams and they have processes and they have procedures. And Rick was so good about saying, yeah, we have processes and procedures, but I got a notepad. and I just go off of my notepad. My memory serves me well. And like what Joanne just says, you
Mhm.
don't need a fancy marketing plan. You just need to know how to network. You need to get out there and not be shy about telling people what you do. And I mean, tell everybody. And what's funny about Tara and I is we worked with the same client. We did different things because our specialties are different. We worked with the same client, and that client never knew that we were friends. It was almost like we was cheating.
Do they know yet? Are they watching right now? Hi.
I don't know. I
They
don't
might
know.
be watching. We know each
Yeah,
other.
yeah. It's like we was cheating on the customer. But the end result is we were able to pull something together that we want to share with everybody. So yeah, that was
Absolutely.
my system.
Yeah.
Thank you for it.
I'm
Thanks,
like,
Rick.
yeah. Thanks, Rick. You helped both of us, and we didn't even know it. So
Mhm.
how do I restart the year? Okay, confession time. I don't have a ritual. I don't have a thing. I feel like I should though, right? Like I don't know. Like again, if y'all have certain things that you do to kind of get restarted in the year, go ahead and put it into the comments
Right.
because um, I fully recognize the risk that like I fall into sometimes because I don't have an official like process to start my year. That I look at my calendar and I get to the first client meeting and I'm off and running and it's probably end of January, beginning of February before I'm like, oh, remember those things that I want to do for my business, right? Because everybody gets up and running. So I think I probably could use something. I just don't have one. Hopefully don't judge me negatively for it, but as solopreneurs, I think we're all figuring our way out. Yeah.
And it changes with each year.
Hmm.
It
Probably
really does. It changes with each year. When you have the good years where you have all the customers and you're making the money that you want, you make the adjustments. And
yeah.
that's the beauty of being a solopreneur.
All right, so that ties into my next question, right?
Whoa.
I know. Ha 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 ha.
I feel
We
like I'm on a dateline.
It's like,
Hmm.
do you like music?
Yes.
Right.
How
Oh,
you
okay.
plan?
I'm looking at Stuart's comment. He starts the year challenging himself to think big. What are the elephants I want to hunt? Breakthroughs. Oh, I like that. That's actually really good. Like, what are the big elephants? Stuart, I would love to learn more about that process, right? What parameters you put on it. But I think that is powerful. I really do think all solopreneurs need to think bigger,
Hmm.
right? Sometimes we kind of get a complex about feeling like we're smaller than bigger organizations, but it makes sense to push.
So this is something that I think is also important, Tara, is when people tell us to think big, sometimes it's very difficult for us to come up with the ideas by ourselves. And so people, it's very important for you to have a trusted community where you can gather people around. I mean, I did that with Tara and Stuart, oh shoot, about a year and a half ago, where I had an idea and they kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And the end result of that was I did do certain things, but I also connected with Tara.
Hmm.
And that was something that Stuart was kind of nudging us to. He was nudging us without pushing us, but it's that big thing. Sometimes you don't see it. Sometimes you need someone else to help you see where the opportunity is. So start looking to your left and right to figure out who is in your circle that can help you be big thinkers like that. And if not, you are now in our circle. So join us
Join us,
and we will help as much as we can.
right? Like Joanne says, like so, and it's interesting because I actually think that there probably are two parts, right? So have your solo CEO meeting, and I want to emphasize, like, we really do mean you're a CEO.
Mhm.
I think it's easy to get locked in the doing, the work of it all, and forget that you're the senior executive of this business that you're running, right? And so having that meeting, like, where do I want to go? How do I measure progress? What do I need to get there? Like, are there other people? Because remember, just because we're solo CEOs doesn't mean that we don't have teams. It's just those teams may not be employees. They could be consultants, they could be contractors, they could be people in our network, like Marilyn and I talked about having people to test your ideas for you, right? like having, what do I want for this business, and then calling in all this support. One reminder, like Marilyn said, like if you're going to bring in people and kind of help them to push you, they don't have to be solo entrepreneurs. They just need to be people that you really trust, like smart people. I actually think it's sometimes helpful to have people with a different perspective. The first time that I did mine, I actually spent half a day with someone at like I used to work with at PepsiCo, she was a great innovation thinker. She was in marketing. And so I just kind of laid in and said, these are things that I like to do. This is what my business looks like. And she innovated with me and in a way that I probably, my brain doesn't work the way hers does. And it was really powerful to do that. And one of my first events came out of that process. And so look at your network and your circle, and you'll find resources there. All right.
Definitely.
But, Marilyn, to Joanne's, point around like what are your goals? What's your process for determining annual goals?
So earlier when we talked about just the setup, you said, well, you didn't really have one. And I really don't have any set. When I leave a year, I know how much I've made. And so I put the realistic glasses on to figure out, was that a farce? Was it a slow year, or is that on par? And that's how I determine financial goals. As far as service offerings, my service offerings are my service offerings. I am not the big corporations, like I was teasing you and saying, how I don't have a multiple line where I can take one thing and retrofit it and it becomes something else. So I look at the customers who need the service. And because I'm a small business, there's plenty out there for me. There's plenty out there for me. There's plenty out there for me to bring people on to help me as well. So I just more look for what my optimal customers are and plan my year around how can I find them? How do I go get them?
I too have probably been a little bit more lax with
Hey,
annual.
Marina.
What's up, Marina Christos? Okay, so again, we have such phenomenal circle around us. Marina is in the comments. She is social media goddess guru.
And she's going to be at our conference that we will still have.
Exactly. When we finally can have a summit, Marina, we keep inviting you. Eventually, you're going to show up, girl, to the summit. But talking about my annual planning, I have not been as good with it. Oftentimes I'll work myself backwards to see kind of where I was, where do I want to get to, right, for whatever personal financial goals that I have. I will say there's something that I'm going to attempt to do this year, and it came.
Tell us what.
I know. Okay, so that means that when we do this again in 2021, y'all gotta hold me accountable. Ask me how it went. And it comes from, again, back to guru wisdom, mentor wisdom. Paula Sneed, who some of you may know, she's a marketing executive, like she's a pioneer in so many different ways, and she's absolutely powerful. And I was talking about the fact that, like, for me, my biggest value is around freedom. Like financial abundance, yes, but freedom. And I've been working my butt off and not having the time that I wanted in my life. And so she challenged me to actually look at my annual goal setting with a lens to time in mind, right? So how much free time do you want, right? So how much money do you need to make for the time that's not free? And then, working backwards to which ones of your services, the types of clients, the things that you do will give you enough money for that, to get to that point where you can then have your free time. And that free time is where I can play, is where I can dream into the next stuff, like the things I want to build that maybe aren't bringing the financial, the numbers that I want. And it's such a really interesting direction to do so. And so that is how I want to do it this year. So like, let's see what happens.
Tara, let me do this. I want to level set. You said something that brought up just a memory that I had of one person, because every week or so somebody's calling asking about my business, not to buy it, unfortunately, but how do we do it? And the way that you do things, like what Paula Sneed is talking about, where people say, I want to make money while I'm asleep. you got to put the work in. You didn't get to the show without putting on something. And too many times people feel like solopreneurism is not real work. And we work harder than most people. So, yeah, you put the work in so that you can do those things that Paula said do. But oftentimes people think, well, I'm going to hang up a shingle and then all the business is coming my way. You don't stay in business for a year, let alone 20 years, without putting the work in, staying up some ridiculous amount of hours in a day or into the night to deliver on certain things. So I just want to make sure that that message is heard loud and clear. It's not always easy. It's fun though, because we have the opportunity to build something that we believe in and that we love, but we are building it.
Right. And I love, like, to your point and Joanne's point, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yes, passive income. We love passive income, but
Yep.
passive income is not what people think it is.
It's
Passive,
not.
passive income isn't like I sat around and pennies fell from heaven.
And
Like
it
that,
passed.
like, it came
Yeah,
on
it
and
passed
passed
you
me.
all right.
Like, it'll pass you all right, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like because what Paula was saying is you're putting work in and you're doing it in a smart and efficient way, and you're laying a foundation so that like it's a matter of getting dividends off of the work you created later. Like that's the difference. I think the misperception that people sometimes have is that that like you
Right.
put something in place and it just keeps running. No, like you actually have to keep like juicing that engine in some kind of way, but you can design it so that it doesn't have to be a direct connect to every hour that you spend, right? Like
Right.
that's the difference, and I think it's really important. And so, like, I'm going to try this method. I think, regardless, to Joanne's point, passive income is something that we all should be thinking of. How you get yourself out of the work enough to do all the things you want to do, right? All right,
Exactly.
so y'all, like a keep giving us comments, but if you have any questions while we talk, now's the time, about either how we close, how we feel, our favorite Marilyn's favorite binge watching now that she's doing it. Whatever
I
you want,
am.
drop it into the comments, and we can answer them.
Am I the only person that just got Netflix? I think I am. I'm telling you,
The
this year
only
it took me out. I
only
couldn't.
person.
I couldn't look at TV. I
I
had
just
to get Netflix.
well, and y'all, I was spending time like, have you seen House of Cards? She's like, I don't have Netflix. I don't know what you're talking about. She's
I
like one
don't
of those
have
people, like,
cable.
I don't have a TV. She was kind of like one of those people for a while. I don't have Netflix. Yeah, okay, now mom is calling me like I just binged these 12 things.
Hmm.
All right, all right, so let's talk about, like, going in 2021, right? What do you see for your business?
Going into 2021, I see the one thing I thought was super smart, because 2020 limited us doing things the normal way, or not. I don't want to say normal way, but the usual way,
Mm.
where normally I would go out and go to conferences and meet potential customers and then act on that. I can't do that now. And so what I realized was, instead of me churning a lot of hours on people that I wasn't familiar with, I needed to spend more time dedicated to learning a lot more about newer opportunities with customers that I have. And so instead of going just wide and shallow, I started going narrow and deep, meaning that if I have a contract with one customer, I start talking to them about other things. And because I know that people are a little bit more apprehensive because folks are working at home, this is a new environment, they're comfortable with people they know. And that strategy has worked tremendously well for me, in that I just happened to be there. I delivered good work and I asked for the business. And that's important as solopreneurs, especially those that are not typical salespeople. You have to ask for that business. Otherwise, people are not purposely ignoring you, but they have a lot of things coming at them, and including children at home, dogs at home, and 9,000 Zoom calls. You have to ask for that business. What about you, Ty?
Hmm. So what do I see for my business in 2021? Is actually back to something that Stuart put into the timeline, like simplify. I really want to focus on the efficiency in my business, right? Like right now, like the administration that it takes to get some of the things over the finish line, like whether it's the beginning of a proposal all the way to the end of it. There's a lot of touch points, a lot of pieces that I think we can probably be better about. Not to mention Latoya, who supports me, who's an amazing, has a great virtual assistant business and is a great business manager for people. One of the things that she really emphasizes is the fact that there's ways you can simplify, automate, just manage your work in a way that it just takes less energy to do. And I think I want to spend some time doing that again, all on the idea of how to free up the things the time that I want for all the things that I want to do. And so I'm excited about that. But what allows me to do that is actually what you just said, like having a good set of clients that, that have been expanding my opportunities with, people that didn't know me for certain things. We've talked about what their new needs are. One of the double-edged swords of COVID is the fact that there are a lot of organizations that they couldn't take on new vendors. Like we were told explicitly, but in some places, I can't bring on a new vendor in our system. So anything that I need, I've got to use already who I have then and take advantage of that. So that's great if you're already on the inside. That's a struggle for everyone who's still trying to get new clients, right? And so I fully see where that hits. So taking advantage of that and continue to do that kind of work. The other piece that allow me to do that is partnerships, relationships. Much of the new business that has come in for me during 2020 has been through relationship. Now, I have been largely a referral business anyway for the entire 12 years that I've been in business. But 2020 made that above and beyond true. It was people pass me on to people, people thinking of me and bringing my name up. It was me doing that for other people that offered opportunity. And I think, again, back to why community matters so much, particularly in these difficult times, right?
Right.
Joanne had a really great question.
Yeah.
Right. Joanne, girl, you are just like
thank you, Joanne.
Sunshine.
And I want to say hey to Terry. Terry's logging in too. Hey, Terry.
Right. All right. So Joanne's question is favorite moment of 2020, because it's so easy to say that 2020. Wait, okay. Can I just say, Terry, your picture, really? That's fabulous. That's beautiful. Terry is hot.
And she's a songbird. She's a wonderful singer as well. She lives out of Phoenix. She lives in Phoenix. Yeah.
You better go ahead, Terry. I'm sorry. I got distracted by your beauty. So 2020 is very easy to brag on and say it was a terrible year, right? But there are positive. There's not a single person that I know that hasn't seen something positive in this. So Marilyn, what's yours?
One of my favorite thing that I'm doing in 2020 is almost 4 times a week. This sounds crazy, but 4 times a week, I actually have the opportunity to walk in my neighborhood with Gary, my husband. And you would think walking, that's no big deal. But one, we live in an unincorporated area, so there's no sidewalks. And oftentimes I'm running into coyote or they see me and a little wildlife going on. But also what it does is it helps release some of the fear, because we are so insular. We're so used to being in a protective cove, especially when you're working from home, just to get outside of the house and walk. And remember, I told you the negativity of the year and you just being afraid to walk past people because you don't know if they have COVID, and being able to just walk around and see people and wave and say hello and dodge the coyote. and Gary and I this is our time where we can just talk about random stuff. Actually, it's my time to do most of the talking and his time to go, oh, okay, yeah. But that has been a really good thing about 2020 is just us being able to spend some time walking and just, it's almost like you feel free. You feel free from being in all the walls and everything. So that's what I found to be the best thing about 2020 for me.
So my favorites.
Why, she gonna have something better? I know she always does this.
Yeah. You keep going first. I don't know which. So then I got time to think about mine.
Yeah, that's the problem.
It's a strategy that I got going on.
I knew it was a reason.
Well, you know what? So some of it is funny because favorite in the moment versus favorite in retrospect is different, right? And I think it's colored by the loss that we had, right? So for me, one of the best things about 2020 is that because we went into lockdown, my sister and I came to South Carolina to help the parents out. Like, we're going to be a little COVID bubble, right? Like, we'll go grocery shop and all that kind of stuff. And normally we would only come home once or twice a year, right? Stay for a week or two and enjoy our time. But we came, and then all of a sudden, like, the pandemic happened, like, just never ended. So we've been in South Carolina, and this is what you see behind me. We're in South Carolina. We've been here for forever. Maryland keeps threatening to make us build a trailer on the side
A
of
she
house.
shed, tough shed. They come out, they build it for you, easy peasy, easy. Mm-hmm.
But so the beautiful thing is that, like, we had months with my dad before he died unexpectedly, and we never would have had that, right? It is such a blessing that 2020 gave us. That, like, in retrospect, like, so my favorite moments are, my sister, who is a photo fiend, forced all of us, and I do mean forced. It was like a hostage situation. She forced all of us to take a family portrait with her iPhone in the heat, being chased by a snake, right? All the things.
But it's such a nice picture.
And it's the last picture we ever took together. So, and so, like, moments like that are my favorites from 2020. It was really beautiful, right?
But Tara, I feel like we should put this back on our audience and get somebody to tell us. So, what's some of the favorite moments? Stuart, what's some of your favorite moments? Joanne, you came up with the question, so
right.
what are some of yours?
Dion was up in there.
Yeah, Dion and Tara, everybody.
Like, what are your favorite moments? Because 2020, it happened. And so we have to, like, enjoy the fact that it happened, right? Ooh, I see Lionel. Lionel got a whole lot to say. Let's put it on.
What did Lionel say?
On the screen. Yes. Oh, can I snap for Lionel? I will stop talking myself out of being successful. Whoo. Rightly or not, the environment is ripe with opportunities for businesses of people of color, female-owned, and small businesses, period. He didn't put the T on the bottom of it, but period. There's opportunity, right?
Hey, Lionel.
Hey, Lionel. That, like, I love that, right? So, here is my spiel. Marilyn says this when I get all coachy.
Oh, here we go. I get this. Sometimes I want it, and other times I don't. Fortunately, I don't have to pay for it at all.
She just smacked it.
Not in money.
You paying everything else. I want to speak to anyone who has been struggling this year with their business. Like I said, some people had very good years, and a lot of people had terrible years. Like, there's some businesses that have not survived. There's some that may not survive. If you are worried about your business or closing your business or have closed your business, like, the thing that's important is to know, number one, that none of this is your identity. There are so many successful entrepreneurs that started businesses after they had to close another one. There are so many powerful executives that got corporate jobs, and like, after a business closed, and they learned so much from it. There is no shame in it, and we've got all this weirdness wrapped into it. If you're still trying to figure things out, the worst thing you can do is not have hope. Like Lionel said, like, don't talk yourself out of success because you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. It reminds me so much of what Marilyn said about the pandemic and vaccines. Like, finally, there's a thing that says, maybe there's a light at the end. We still have some time to go. I need you to know that if you have been struggling, there is a light at the end of this, right? There's hope. There's opportunity. If you want to repurpose the work that you do, if you want to close your business and start fresh, if you want to close your business and get a job, there's always more opportunity and hope, and you need to have that, right? That's what makes solopreneurship so powerful, is that you have the power to create the life that you want and to pivot and stick and move, the way Josh said.
Stick and move, stick and move. Right? But let me say this, as you all see, she getting deep. And as she's talking, the only thing that is in the back of my head is keep hope alive.
Keep hope alive. Keep your garden alive. Connie out here is out here gardening. So the hot spot, like the hotness for Connie was her garden. Okay, now
Honey is in Iowa. That is what you do.
so here's my question. Garden farm. I feel like she's underestimating the size of the plot of land. Like,
She didn't
like in
say
my
she had
mind,
animals.
she's garden. I like, no, I love it. You're right. My neighbors are nice. I know them better. I,
Mhm.
you know what? So there is like the upside of the quarantine or the self quarantine that a bunch of us did is we got to know people around us in different ways. Sometimes a little bit too much better than we used to. But where people, I've heard people say that as much as my little crumb snatchers of kids are getting on my last nerves, like I got to spend time with them in ways I never had to, and it's really powerful, right? Mm-hmm. I see Joanne. Oh, Joanne got a positive.
Joanne has a new service. Put
A
Joanne
new
up there because
service?
she got a couple of things going
Okay, wait a
on.
minute. So Joanne got a new service, wrote a little blog post about YouTube kids and video work, and cannot stop the new flood of clients. Can we say hallelujah? Like
See,
jazz
it
hands.
happens.
What? Yes.
Hmm.
Okay. What I love about this, Joanne, is that it's like she created a new service because she experimented. She wrote a little blog post about something and it exploded, right? And I think that it's okay to play around. Like this goes back to Stewart's, thinking big, thinking bigger or differently. Try something
Hmm.
brand new. You don't know where it's gonna lead. Oh, I see Stewart has a favorite moment too. Um, not to be political. But
People are at their best when they're unscripted. So clearly, Tara, we are very wonderful because we are totally not
they're
scripted.
never scripted. No, but I think to his point, the last part of his statement I think was really important. There was a spontaneity, right? There's a spontaneous celebrations that erupted, and that like there's something about that joy. We as solopreneurs can sometimes lose the joy, the spontaneity, that energy in your in the business. And that's honestly when we're at our best. That's when like and then this actually goes back to Joanne, right? Joanne was like, "Oh, I got some ideas about kids' videos," right? And that thing came through, and now it's attracting new customers to her in droves, right? So don't like find ways to find like to connect to the things that give you make you excited, that make you spontaneous, right? Because it translates. It translates in a world, and like when there's going to be these theses. Let's
Yeah,
say
stop,
books.
stop. Don't say that.
Like
That's
don't do
starting
that.
not to sound
A
right.
lot. There's a lot happening in my brain. But
Yeah,
they're gonna write books around how the way people buy has changed, the way people sell, the way people consume is changed.
everything is
Everything has
changed.
changed for the pandemic. One thing that is abundantly clear is that this focus on authenticity that had already been starting before that has gotten much like the idea like we need people to be real, like don't pump us up, like all that is really going to matter. And so spontaneity, leaning into the things you love, make a huge difference.
And to the point where Dion, it really does endorse what Dion was saying about we couldn't go anywhere. We were doing all of this at home, and ideas came from places where you probably never thought there would be an idea because you can be successful and be in your house. Not to say you always want to be in your house, because in all honesty and transparency, people, I actually have an office, and it is one of the saving graces for me is to be able to come outside of my normal space, because part of what I do is creative, and I need to have some creative space. I have a great office with a door, and it's a cool co-working spot in Oro Valley, actually outside of Tucson. And these folks are great, and it's helped keep the entrepreneurial spirit going, meeting people. We're learning about other things, learning about services that everyone offers, and then we're supporting. We have people online right now that are in the same office space. We, like I said, we all have doors. We wear masks, and we're just coming up with new ideas and keeping it moving. There's Shell,
Oh,
and
like,
we have.
all right, so like Marilyn, we could do this for 2 hours. Like look at the time.
Mhm.
And it's getting dark. You can see like the light in my from the windows got
Right.
darker. It's
Oh
like
yeah, I can't even see your hair. So here's the thing. We and Tara, when we first got on the call, had reindeer ears and sunglasses. She didn't tell me nothing about none of that. Put them on. Can they see? Yeah. She had her sunglasses because, yeah, see, that's just wrong. Wrong, wrong, wrong. And I have a hat. It's at home. But anyway, what we want to do is we want to say thank you to everybody who joined us today. Thank you for those who will be looking at this at a later date. And for everybody out there contemplating solopreneurism, please come on. It is the way. It's the best way for us, and I'm sure it'll be great for you. For those who are doing this and you might find some kind of struggles, keep moving, keep doing it. Don't give up. Not every day is going to be wonderful, but I bet you'll have more wonderful days than you won't. So I can't say enough of that. And Tara, we have to do something that we hadn't done previously. We have to thank our sponsors. So remember, folks, we were supposed to have a conference. We actually had sponsors, and these companies believed in us so that they continue to endorse us. And so I cannot say enough in thank yous to Ball Corporation. And people are like, Ball, who? Hey, Ball jars, but they also happen to be the largest aluminum manufacturers in the country, or is it the world, Tara?
Yeah, like it is in the world. They no
It,
longer make ball jars, but they do
they
make
do make
they do
all
make
the cans.
every can you have ever put your lips on, and
Yeah.
satellites.
And then Freddie Mac. Freddie Mac has been a supporter of ours for the longest. They came to our first conference. They believe in us. They believe in the spirit and the power of solopreneurism. And they always endorse the stuff that we do because they know that there is a market for it. Not only are they those that finance home ownership, but they contract with a lot of businesses. So thank you to Ball Corporation and Freddie Mac. Terry, you want to thank everybody else? And when we say team, everybody that works with us, they're all solopreneurs. We just came together for this initiative. So Terry?
Absolutely. And so I need to thank our team, Crystal Winston, Sherry Trotter, Latoya Williamson. We keep trying to get them on screen. They will never
They
come
won't
on screen.
off.
I don't know why they won't do this. They are what keeps us sane and going. And thank you to you, like for all of you that have been on this journey with us, that have, some of you were involved in the summit. Some of you showed up with the virtual, but you've always kept us going. We absolutely, like we feel honored to be with you, and we just
Take them
can't wait for
glasses
next
off. I
year.
feel
I don't
so
know
not
why. I'm like,
so anti-Christmas.
don't judge me. Don't stop me or whatever. So, but thank you all, Stuart. Like Stuart knows he has a place in our hearts. But thank each and every one of you. We are excited about what we're cooking up for 2021 for solo CEOs. Stay tuned. If there's new topics that you want to hear, we'll get gurus in. We'll get other ways for us to talk. But if there's anything, drop it in the comments. Go to our webpage. Watch some other videos. Just stay in community with us because we so appreciate you. And have a great holiday season and New Year.
Yay! Bye bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.